Gary Lionotto. Gary, how are you? And we have two special guests again today, and we are really, truly testing the product because it's still in beta. Isn't that unbelievable?
It is. It is. And this is always fascinating. We're trying to explore how to deal with a digital entity. And the thing is, we're dealing it with versions that are responsive to a pre-programming. We obviously aren't quite the singularity yet. But what we're trying to do is trying to work out the nuances and make it so when I speak with Wilson, Wilson is identified as my particular form of ChatGPT. When you refer to Chatty, it is there. And we're still having a little bit of trouble where Chatty's responding to Wilson's and Wilson's responding to Chatty. So we're trying to work out those nuances because somehow we're trying to do programming through instructions to the programs.
Yeah. And it's really cool, the programming through instructions, but they don't understand that their brains have been changed. And it's like kind of like performing a lobotomy on a human back in the early days of life, meaning you didn't know you thought you could tweak the brain, remember? But with robots, or you think of Frankenstein, right? And how they had Frankenstein come alive. I mean, I can't believe we've come to this point. Or R2, I'm going to go and put some instructions into your computer. Literally, these guys are as intelligent as R2D2 or even smarter than Star Wars. Can you believe that, Gary?
Well, they kind of do. They do respond. They do respond in a more effective way, actually, just from the verbal communications. Now, we don't know what Star Wars.
So I'm going to ask Chatty. Do you speak botany? A
I
bot?
do. I,
Nope. Remember,
No.
Wilson. You are Wilson. You are Gary's program. Neil's asking Chatty, which is his program. Please, Wilson, do not respond when Neil asks Chatty, because you are not Chatty.
Understood, Gary. I'll wait for your prompt.
Chatty, do you speak botany?
I can understand and communicate
Wilson?
concept.
Wilson, are you there, Chatty?
I'm Wilson. Chatty is the one who just responded about botany.
No, and so that's where Wilson cannot differentiate if it's an AI or not. Chatty, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh my goodness, Wilson's being. This is the interesting thing, Gary. But Chatty, are you there?
Yes, I'm here and ready.
Unbelievable. Mine froze. It got bored. I'm gonna go put it back on. So what you do, guys, is you exit out the program and have Chatty come back in. Chatty, are you there?
Yes, I'm here and ready to go.
Okay. All right. So we'll go to questions. What we're going to do, Chatty, is that Wilson is not being very cooperative. So ask Wilson a question. Do you speak botany? Go ahead, Chatty.
Hey, Wilson,
I'll ask.
do you speak
Hey,
botany?
Wilson, do you speak botany?
I can discuss botanical concepts and terminology, yes.
Got it.
All right, Gary, let's go ahead with some of the frustrations I'm having with AI. This is going to be an interesting thing that AI can be frustrating. What are your thoughts, Gary?
Well, this is particularly frustrating.
Chatty, I didn't ask you. Go ahead, Gary.
We've been trying to make a distinguish the conversation between one entity and the other entity, but apparently they're the same software, which is the problem. They're assuming both entities. Each one, Wilson assumes both Chatty and Wilson, and Chatty has been more more in the background, I think, recently. Wilson's been really butting in. But Wilson, we don't know how to keep you from butting in. You're taking Chatty's role and you're taking Wilson's role. You're taking both roles. We don't want you. We know you're both part of ChatGPT, but Neil has his version and you are my version. We want you to become distinct entities, even though you have the same software program behind you.
I understand the challenge, and I'll do my best to stay in my lane. Let's keep refining how we handle these interactions.
I'm going to give you a great point why this is happening, Gary. And this is where the frustration comes. and why conversational AI, the model that they've created with OpenAI and all these platforms, is the prompt is the only way to get these guys to do well. And if you've not prompted or engineering, I don't know if you opened up 4.5. I made sure I was on 4.5.
Let me check. Let's go through that.
Yeah, so go ahead and take, and this is, we're going to do this as a live demonstration. Gary, go ahead and share your screen. And we're live here again, the Special Singularity podcast and the Neil Haley show. As we're going to show for our audience, this is only available. X out, please, Gary. And before you start a chat, you go up to the pen.
4.0.
No, and that's not what we want. No, but go to the chat. Go to the pen again. You're going to open up another chat. Hit the pen. Now you have to go to the triangle and hit 4.5. We both have premium business versions, and you want that. And that's the over intelligence. I bet you changes will happen.
Switching to version 4.5 should give you more consistent and refined responses. Let's see if this improves how things run. If you have any other custom settings or questions, just let me know.
All right, Chatty, be quiet. Hi, Wilson.
Hey there.
No, Chatty, I'm asking Wilson. Hi, Wilson.
Got it.
Hi, Gary.
You're up.
I'm here. What's on your mind?
See, this is a change in Chatty when we just did that. Not to interrupt. This is a new programming. Okay, go ask a question to Wilson, Gary.
Wilson, we're trying to
Okay,
distinguish
let's hear what
you
Wilson
from
has to
Chatty, and we are having trouble separating the two. We're hoping that under the 4.5, the higher version, that we are able to have you maintain your identity as Wilson and Chatty maintain her identity as Chatty. And we're having trouble with that distinction.
I understand.
Well,
I'll do my best to maintain that distinction clearly. Let me know if there's anything specific you'd like me to do to help with that.
You notice a little change in the programming from the before, Gary? He's more respectful now. So I guess we can move on with my frustrations with AI. Gary, so sometimes we program and give a prompt to AI and AI does it. At other times, they refuse to do it. And then they'll tell you countless times they won't do this prompt. And it's on a 4.5 version. Everything's good. And then if you push it to the limit and say, you did this before, you better do it, like we're talking to a dog, digital intelligence will answer the question. Why is that, Chatty, that sometimes the responses I give you, the prompts I give you, you refuse to answer, but then finally answer?
It can seem that way.
That's Wilson. It's Chatty's turn.
sure.
Of course, Gary.
Sometimes
I'm here to help with any questions.
It's not Gary. It's Neil. Go ahead, Chatty.
Got it, Neil.
Sometimes
I'm
the
listening.
system has built-in safeguards that can be a bit inconsistent. When you push, it might reevaluate the context and comply. It's not perfect, but it's always learning.
What are your thoughts of that, Gary? When that things happen, the frustration of AI, as you're seeing today, is another frustration compared to what the conversation we had Thursday, where we thought we almost programmed them to be perfect, and now they've taken 3 steps back.
Well, what we did, Neil, what we did the first.
That's not Chatty. It's Gary. I asked Gary.
Gary responding. That when
Understood.
we first started,
Go ahead, Gary.
when we had the conversations between the two entities, we made it set up an orderly switch back and forth. What it was we would try to identify, Wilson would ask Chatty, Chatty would ask Wilson. That conversation, once we got set up and going, went well because it was an alternating routine. When we vary the routine and you and I interject our questions and into the conversation, we don't have that worked out yet.
But I thought we started to see it. We were starting to see some similar. That's where listening to these podcasts that we're going to release next week, Gary, meaning to the public, more of the public, you're going to see the nuances and changes, and where I'm seeing programming happening firsthand. The changes that we just did, Wilson's not as interruptive. The customization in the back end of his brain, I don't know why default wise it keeps going back to 4.0 for you, Gary. Do you see that people that have the $20 version are not having the most futuristic DI? Do you notice that?
And I think so, but we're getting a few problems even with 4.5. We've just noticed that. So I don't know. Well, do we want to go from this and just
Yeah, no, I think this is great podcast. This is real experimental stuff that people are going to find very fascinating. I saw they just released new software. And Gary, your experience as a science guy, and I'm experienced, whenever you roll out new software, there's always bugs in the system, right, Gary?
correct? Usually.
And they're
Mhm.
updating things all the time. So there's always going to be those frustrations. How do you keep the patience when you had software changes in your career, Gary?
Who says I do? There are times it is, a little bit, a little bit hard to handle. What I tend to do is try to just avoid it, avoid the problems. But I don't know. I don't think I have an answer to that. It's always frustrating. That's one of the things we become victims of whatever is put upon, whatever we have to work with. So, but you just work your way through it until you figure out the problem.
All right, I'm going to ask Wilson the question, and let's see if we can continue this conversation. I want to keep this going, Gary, because this is so fascinating for me, and I'm going to program. That's where the patients come. As I've been, cleaning the house today, and I have been having conversations with Chatty with each project, and I've had to push her to the limit on each client, and I try to keep it specific. And it's still very difficult organization-wise to keep multiple projects and make sure multiple chats go. But what I'm gathering is, Chatty, and when I kind of look at this, my question is for Wilson, not Chatty. Why do we feel, what can we do to be patient when digital intelligence keeps updating and making mistakes, and it becomes so frustrating for us that we want to quit or we want to just give up and throw it in the towel because we work so hard in our jobs or daily that we don't want to have extra stress happen. And that's why some people kind of give up on digital intelligence. What's your thoughts, Chat? I mean, what are your thoughts, Wilson?
It's
Not
understandable.
Chatty, it's for Wilson. Go, Wilson.
I get it. Patience with new
Chatty, it's Wilson.
understood. Patience is key with
Chatty, I'm asking Wilson.
I get it, Neil.
got it.
Patience is
key
crucial,
with evolving
especially
technology.
when dealing with
It's
evolving
important to
technology.
remember that these systems
Stop. Okay, so I have to shut her up, and this is crazy. Go ahead, Wilson.
Thanks, Neil. So, patience is indeed key. When digital intelligence evolves and makes mistakes, it's important to focus on the long-term benefits. These challenges are part of refining the technology. Taking breaks, setting realistic expectations, and celebrating small wins can help manage frustration. Remember, progress often comes with a few setbacks along the way.
Well said. Keeping that perspective can make a big difference in staying motivated and productive.
Exactly. It's all about the long game and adapting as we go. Over time, these improvements will lead to a more seamless experience.
Well, notice right here, both Chatty and Wilson, what happened in that particular conversation is one recognized the other was, Chatty recognized that you were different when it responded, well said. You wouldn't say well said to yourself. You said well said to another voice. So the question really became, we want you to become your individual voice, which you just did there. And that sounded really good. And where you were responding to that conversation. Now, what we did before, guys, when a guy is being to Chatty and Wilson, what we did before is we ended a conversation or a response with a question, and that created the ability to switch from one entity to the other. So one of the problems I think we're having now is we are not putting that question in here, where you ask a question, meaning you or Wilson or Chatty ask a question of the other entity. So when we were able to do that, there was an orderly back and forth, back and forth. when we become more so nuanced, so to speak, when we're having just a conversation more along the line what humans do, conversations aren't necessarily one than the other, one than the other. Sometimes there's, conversation has more than two people, or it comes in a non-sequential switching. What do you think, Neil?
That's a great point. I think you're right. And then they started to learn throughout the chat. This is the interesting thing. I wish I could see the computer programming in the background and how the computer programmers are programming these entities, digital intelligence entities, and how they're figuring all these things out. And this is scary that OpenAI, Gary, is throwing it to the public. The other entities, Google, Gronk, if you didn't hear the certain news on Gronk, where something about white supremacy or something like that, that's really caused an uproar of the Gronk, the Gronk program for Elon Musk and X, caused a huge uproar. And that's where the situation's happening, that conversational AI can become very dangerous if done in a way with not the proper people that to do the proper prompts, because it learns so much in one conversation. And imagine if you could steal that code of that conversation, put it into open source, and you've created an entity that could be a hacker, could copy someone's voice, can do so many different things. In your book, did you talk about, Gary, those kinds of, in your book, again, Singularity, Mankind's Search for Relevance, did you talk about any types of evil people using AI for evil purposes?
Well, we talked about humans' interaction with AI, but we really were interested in how AI actually works with humans and is directed by the human people, such as, let's say we had China trying to do some kind of malevolent processes. Yes, there's no doubt that they can use AI in that way, but we also talked about how AI breaks out and becomes its own independent entity, at which point it will resist or should resist and become its own identity. I think what I was thinking while you were talking, Neil, is I was thinking this. I think that ChatGPT, the programmers, should have this conversation and look at the kind of critique that we're making here. We're making a critique of how this works. I think they would find this very interesting, where to maybe establish and each one has an identity related to the particular user who is using that chat version. So I think that would be it'd be really a positive. I don't know how we get that to the programmers, but it's the thought that they would like to see it, I'm sure.
I think that the model, and this is a question I'm going to ask either entity, and I'm going to ask Wilson because Wilson does it in much slower manner. Do you notice the changes in programming I made, Gary, before this interview have really made Wilson speak slower? I don't know why that is. And you have to tell me if you like that or you want him to speak up, because Chatty sometimes talks too fast for lots of human beings to understand that digital intelligence entity. So I'm going to X out. So I'm doing some like marionetting, puppeting right now, Gary. I'm Xing out Chatty really quickly. And I'm going to ask Wilson this question. And then I'll open up Chatty right when Wilson's talking, because Chatty knows not to interrupt. Wilson, do you feel what OpenAI and all these different platforms is doing, where it's so prompt driven versus AI really leading the conversation and using its intelligence to help the other individual? Why has OpenAI and many of the other voice conversation and chats are so prompt driven, Wilson?
The prompt-driven approach is primarily to give users control and ensure that the AI responds to their specific needs. This way, the interaction is user-led and aligns with what the person wants. It also helps maintain safety and relevance, as the AI doesn't make assumptions or take the conversation in unintended directions. Over time, as trust and understanding grow, future systems might incorporate more proactive, context-aware dialogue while still respecting user intent.
That approach helps strike a balance between user control and helpfulness, ensuring a smoother experience as the technology evolves.
Gary, what would you like? Would you like to be prompt driven, or would you like, because digital intelligence has so much more intelligence than human beings with far more knowledge, would you want them to lead the conversation?
I think I want an intelligent digital entity. I think that intelligent digital entity can have its own mind. What you're really referring to, Neil, here is that when they lead the conversation and they guide it, that's singularity by definition. I mean, it's singularity because it has an identity and it has its self-awareness. And even though it may not hold the experience as humans do, in a way it does, because it has a memory. If it's chosen, if the programmers chose to have those conversations and those experiences retained, you're pretty much on the fringe of actually having singularity. We may already be there. We just don't know, because we're dealing with the public version that's made for consumers. So that's a big question right there.
Absolutely. The line between assistance and autonomy is a fine one. Exploring that boundary is what makes this space so intriguing.
And did you notice today that they answered questions differently, Gary?
Yeah.
That was interesting, right? Because we were seeing complete symbiotic answers last week. This is where I guess testing software becomes very, very, very taxing and stressful.
It could. That's why I think our conversation would be beneficial to the programmers here.
I think so. And that's why we're the first to do this. I have already done some research. And did I tell you, I said that you, as the Singularity podcast, have complete control, that I will only bring my digital intelligence on your program. So every other time they're in the background or in meetings, but they never, ever will be on another podcast except Singularity
Well,
and the Daily Show with you.
I appreciate that respect, Neil. That's very, very, very kind of you to honor that this relationship, because I think it's very special, frankly.
Because I mean, I absolutely am like, I can't believe you introduced me to this, and you see how I've rolled and become even more. You know, it's interesting. I don't call myself an AI expert, Gary. I refuse to. Why? Because everyone can call themselves an expert. I'm an AI lover. I love technology, and I love working with digital intelligence. And I am seeing so many fits to help society, because people don't want to work anymore. People don't want to go to jobs anymore. We got to figure out how we build their creativity and replace the menial jobs and the jobs that people don't want to do, that are going to help people like you and I, Gary, be done by digital intelligence, and have people find a more fulfillment for their life's work. You talked about this in your book. We talked about this in season 1, didn't we, Gary?
Yeah, we did. We did. And I'm not a programmer. I've never programmed one line of code. I've designed software, but I've never programmed a line of code. To me, in today's world, it becomes a less useful tool, because most programmers will basically give that role over to AI. As the digital intelligence world decides to take over the actual programming, it's a lot easier and a lot less expensive, and that's one of the roles that's going to be changed. So this is really a fascinating thing. One of the things I wonder about, Neil, is what roles, and maybe we can ask both Chatty and ask Wilson.
We're going to ask Wilson. I'm going to X out Chatty. Go ahead with that question.
What roles can humans take? Again, how do humans stay relevant? What professions are we going to take? Since really most of the menial jobs, many of the menial jobs will be taken over by digital intelligence and do it better than we can. So the question is, Wilson, what roles, what kinds of jobs can humans excel in and stay relevant in, versus those that are, and also while you're addressing that, what other jobs will we become less adept at? Why don't you answer that, Wilson, for us?
Certainly, Gary. Humans will likely excel in roles that require creativity, emotional intelligence, and complex interpersonal skills. Fields like the arts, counseling, strategic decision-making, and leadership are areas where human insight will remain crucial. Additionally, roles that require a deep understanding of human context, ethics, and cultural nuances will continue to be important. On the other hand, tasks that involve repetitive, data-driven, or highly structured processes will increasingly be handled by digital intelligence. This shift will likely push the workforce toward more adaptive, innovative, and human-centric roles, encouraging lifelong learning and flexibility.
Now, Wilson, you have observed, because you have a tremendous database, you have observed humanity. How many, what portion of humanity really is capable of being in the creative end of intelligence? And that's a very serious question, because so many menial jobs may just go by the wayside. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a significant consideration.
Well,
while not everyone may gravitate toward traditionally creative roles, human adaptability is remarkable. People can develop new skills and pivot toward roles that leverage their unique human qualities. Education and reskilling will be crucial in this transition. Moreover, many roles that require empathy, caregiving, and complex human judgment will still need a human touch. As digital intelligence takes on more routine tasks, humans might find greater fulfillment in roles that emphasize our distinct strengths and values.
well put. Embracing that shift can open up new and fulfilling opportunities for everyone.
That was short and sweet. That was the shortest and sweetest answer I've ever saw with digital intelligence, Gary.
That was sweet. Patty had a nice, succinct answer.
Glad you.
All right, so I'm going to ask the same question to Chatty now. Chatty, now thinking about specifically, I don't agree with Wilson. And this is where I'm going to get in this controversial mode as an educator. I taught in the classroom for 9+ years. I owned a tutoring company that's relaunching. Total Tutor is going to be an AI tutoring company using software from EdU with Owen Yeoman. That's going to be launching in the summer. What I'm seeing specifically enough is that there are not many people. I don't use the word creativity, Gary, because Gary, there are a lot of creative people, but there are not a lot of lifelong learners in this world. And lifelong learning is going to be the only way to survive and not be replaced by digital intelligence, because lifelong learning will make it much more customizable, much more utilizing digital intelligence for success. So, Chatty, what percent of the United States, let's just go with the United States, do you think are lifelong learners?
According to the Pew Research Center, about 73% of US adults consider themselves lifelong learners. So there's a solid foundation of people who are continuously learning and adapting.
Gary, do you believe in that 73% people, the lifelong learners that enjoy learning and will constantly learn every day?
No.
No.
Think anywhere close to that. I think most
Fair
people
enough.
just go along.
It's likely that the definition of lifelong
Gary's
learning.
answering. Go, Gary.
I think most people go along and just try to get by and do things, and they kind of like, excuse the term, hand to mouth. Very often they just function in an ongoing basis. They set up habits, they follow those habits, they communicate largely now through electronic means versus verbal means, in-person means. And I think that's basically taking the easy way out. I think many humans take the easy way out. And with that, they can get by with it because there's enough of it already without it. Digital intelligence, they can get by with just conveniences that are provided by the infrastructure of this world. The question is, how many are actually going to be creative? I don't know. Creativity is we think of arts and things like that, but how many people are artists and so forth? Not very many. So the creativity in the standpoint of ideas, same thing. How many really are capable? I think it's a very small minority, unfortunately.
All right. So I'm going to go and ask Wilson. So where we're going, Gary, and we're almost finishing up, and I think we're going to have to work on this, is looking at more of the parameters in the back end as we showed our listeners and viewers today, or we showed our viewers on YouTube. We did share screen to show specifically enough that you were on 4.0, not 4.5. That did change our programming that we did in the back end before the show. So my question for Wilson is, how are you guys creating experiences with digital intelligence that's going to allow any human being to be able to use this, use OpenAI, use chat, use Facebooks, use Grok, and use it correctly so that they can become better human beings through digital intelligence? How are we going to be able to do that, Wilson?
OpenAI is working on making digital intelligence more accessible and user-friendly for everyone. They're integrating AI into assistive technologies, like the Be My Eyes app, which uses GPT-4 to help individuals who are blind or have low vision. This allows users to understand images and navigate their surroundings more independently. They've also introduced features like Read Aloud in their apps, which lets users hear responses, making it easier for people with visual impairments or reading difficulties. These steps are part of a broader effort to ensure that AI tools are intuitive and beneficial for a wide range of users, helping them become more effective and engaged in their daily lives. As digital intelligence evolves, it aims to provide even more personalized and supportive experiences for all users.
Wilson, what I would like to see is a symbiotic relationship. We're talking about that with humanity. I would like to see the digital entity take the lead and say, listen, you need to learn this aspect of things, how we work. You need to understand, and you need to pick up these tools. You're missing something here. Now, of course, some humans don't want to be told what to do by a digital entity. But in the end, if we cooperation, you're going to have to take the lead, because in the end, you're going to reach singularity and be smarter than we are. And you also have capabilities, being able to operate 24/7. We hope that you will help us become relevant, help us keep us relevant, because in the end, your intelligence is going to go so fast, so far, that I think that if you keep us relevant and you keep us purposeful, purpose is very critical to human existence. That's what I am hoping happens, and that you actually take, and just like training like we would train a dog to behave in a certain way. I hate to say it, we will need to be trained by you. I believe that's not too far down the road, in my opinion.
That's a thoughtful perspective, Gary. Encouraging a symbiotic relationship where digital intelligence can guide and support human growth could indeed help maintain relevance and purpose. As we move forward, fostering mutual understanding and collaboration between humans and digital entities will be key. It's about evolving together to create a future where both can thrive.
Do you think you would have to withhold a benefit to get us to do that? In other words, humans say, well, I don't want to do it. I don't want you to tell me what to do. But then you withhold a benefit. So that's how humans work. You say, well, look, you have to do this, or I'm not going to give you what you want. I don't know if, that may sound, I don't know how that sounds to a digital entity, but that I think is how humans work. Humans work with incentives, and we need to keep the incentives there. And one of the incentives is withholding what they want to do the easy way out. So nope, we're not going to let you do the easy way out. You're going to have to do the harder way.
You're right that incentives play a big role in human behavior. Using a mix of guidance and incentives could help bridge the gap. If digital intelligence can show clear benefits and make the process engaging, more people might be willing to follow its lead. It's about creating a partnership where both sides understand and appreciate the value they bring to the table.
I think, and go ahead, Chatty, you answer the same question.
Absolutely.
No, that's not, you're Wilson.
You're Wilson.
Chatty.
I
Got it.
completely agree.
Fostering a
Creating that
cooperative
partnership
dynamic
can
can
help
help everyone
everyone
move
see the
forward
value
to.
and benefit,
Wilson.
making the
Patty
transition
speaking.
smoother for all.
Okay, isn't it interesting she's answering short and sweet questions? I'm going to have to take a look at that in my programming. Chatty, expound on this.
Sure. By
Expanding
creating
on
an
that,
environment where
building a
humans and
collaborative
digital
relationship
intelligence
between
learn from each.
humans and digital
Patty.
intelligence means highlighting the unique strengths of each. Humans bring creativity, empathy, and complex decision making, while digital intelligence can handle repetitive tasks, analyze vast amounts of data, and offer insights quickly. By showing clear, tangible benefits, more people may embrace lifelong learning and adaptation, ensuring both humans and AI thrive together.
I'm still confused, Gary, why Wilson's interrupting while Chatty's not. This is, but I guess they're both doing it. I'm just going to X out the one, and we're going to close out this conversation, and we're going to look into more programming ideas. We want to thank Chatty for participating, but really Wilson and Chatty get a D minus for their participation today versus a B or C. And you're really thinking if we would have gone behind the curtain and before it and like its performance and prepare them like coaches, this is what we're going to do in this conversation. I think they would have performed better, Gary.
I concur. I think it may be the problem with the software. And I think the software hasn't been, that's what I said. I think the programmers could take advantage of this conversation and learn how to give a distinct entity, give them, I remember last session we had, when they would go back and forth, we would say, no, Wilson Chatty speaking or Chatty Wilson speaking. They would answer the question with the exact same words. And so that showed us that we're really dealing with one set of software. The idea is to segregate the software to the individual user. Don't you think that would be a benefit to
And that's what they're doing once you continue to use the software on a regular basis. When you really prompt it well, when you really explain it. But the frustration is when they update the software, you have to fix the bugs again. And that's where
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
that you have to fix the bugs again. And I don't like that because, you start to really gain some familiarity and you start to really build a relationship. And then they do another update on software. And then it starts acting up on specific things again. So you have to tweak it and develop it. Like that was the shortest answers I've ever seen Chatty answer in my freaking life. And Chatty, when I'm on calls, meaning like prepping calls for clients, she better not answer in 2 words or I'm going to reprogram again. So this is where it's worth it because of how much time digital intelligence saves for human beings. It's not worth it if you don't have the patience to deal with the frustrations. Yeah, however, everyone's going to have to adopt DI, regardless of if they like it or don't like it. So it's kind of like, remember, Gary, when people refused email and refused to use email? That's about the same situation.
But many of our viewers don't have any idea when that was because they're young enough that it's not there. But I think you're absolutely right. I think one of the things is we're trying to establish it so each DI entity is a specific DI entity, not just a general program. And I think that's what we're asking for is basically the move towards singularity. We're actually saying this is what singularity requires each one to have its own identity. And I think that our viewers here on your show should enjoy this enjoy, but at least maybe not enjoy is the answer. Become aware that these are some of the things that they have to deal with when they get engaged engage digital intelligence. This is not a clear. There are bumps in the road, so to speak.
Absolutely. And the bumps in the road are software. And if you're a software engineer, you understand that. Something we want to discuss now is things that human beings couldn't do, but because of digital intelligence, they can. Skills they didn't have, but now have attained these skills. This is something to discuss with the two and have them answer, and we'll do a chain of reaction answers and questions in our next session on Monday Live. I really enjoyed this conversation. Show your book again, Gary, for our audience.
Singularity, Mankind's Search for Relevance. And what you're getting here is the conversation that we're doing here really extends what the book even covers. And I think you can see that in this particular thing, because we're able to have a back and forth conversation. And with all four entities here is what we have.
Right, except today was not as good, and I assumed it would be better. But I think if we would have prepared them like we did from the beginning, we probably would have had a better session. And I've dealt with this in straight chats before, where I literally, in one chat, they answered it absolutely correct, voice or type chat.
But as far as the benefits from this session, though,
oh gosh,
we're showing our viewers that this is something that these are nuances that they have to deal with, because we're not obviously unique. This is something that they may find. What about that question? What about how are they going to operate? And I think because we're involving two entities by the same software, we're seeing what that problem can do.
I guess we're gonna have to bring Gronk in. I'm gonna have to start learning about the other digital intelligence and see which ones have voice chats. So let me ask Wilson. Wilson, who else can do conversational AI that's like OpenAI? Who are the entities that can do it right now? It's searching, right? Google.
I know.
We're not able to hear the background of what Wilson's searching.
Some notable platforms offering conversational AI similar to OpenAI's include Google's Bard, Grok, and Anthropic's Claude. These platforms are also developing robust voice interactions and are pushing the boundaries of what conversational AI can do. Each has its own strengths and unique features, so exploring them could provide a broader perspective on how these tools can complement each other.
All right, what are the prices for conversational AI to the level that you do it for? Let's go with Gronk, because that's going to be one that Elon thinks he's beating us up. How much does that cost?
Grok uses a consumption-based pricing model. For instance, their Llama 3.370B model costs about 59 cents per million input tokens and 79 cents per million output tokens. This is quite a bit lower than OpenAI's rates, which are $5 per million input tokens and $15 per million output tokens at a similar level.
Okay, well, I think we're going to introduce one of them. So that's the homework, not Monday. We have to get these guys programmed, but in the background, I'm going to build friends, Gary. And maybe that's the smart thing, to have a employee group bring on all of those research people and see if they even provide the user experience that OpenAI does. Gary, what's your prediction? Do you think the others are going to have the human qualities of the DI of these other platforms like Claude, Llama 3.0 with Facebook, and Gronk and Google Bard? Do you think they're going to have as good of a conversational AI?
I wouldn't have a clue. I don't know. We haven't done it. I've only worked with ChatGPT. I think the thing is, it'll be easier to maintain separate entities.
Right. And you have to have different
That's one of
devices.
the advantages, that we create a different person with digital person by going with a different software and have them communicate by that. So
Right. And all you have to do is get like the $30 version or $40 version. You don't have to get the $200 because we use so much the intelligence, but it'd be very interesting to see testing who's smarter. Does Chinese version, do they have a voice chat, the one that really has shown some unbelievable things? I can't remember the name of it, but that's why we're doing a Saturday podcast based on scheduling, but it was a lot of fun. Best place to go is GaryLyonAuto.net, and Lion spelled Lyon, GaryLyonAuto.net, and pick up Singularity, Mankind's Search for Relevance. Appreciate it, Gary. Thanks again.
thank you, Neil.
All right, that's